Welcome to this interactive explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we are looking at something incredibly fascinating: your own mind. The human brain, it's an absolute marvel. It's a mysterious thing, and truthfully, we often know more about the distant stars in our universe than we do about the intricate workings inside our own heads. But well, one crucial fact that researchers do know is that generally speaking, our mysterious brains actually get a little less sharp and a bit less productive as we age. But don't worry, we're going to put that to the test today using some brilliant visual exercises straight from our source material. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're challenging your cognitive flexibility with a fun, gamified test of your brain power. I'm going to present you with a series of riddles. To get the most accurate measure of your cognitive agility, you ideally want to try and solve each of these within a 20-second window. So, sharpen your focus, keep track of your reaction times, and by the end of this explainer, you'll be able to calculate your very own approximate brain age.
Theme 1, Perception versus Reality. Let's look at the mental shortcuts our brains take.
Think about a photograph of a person's face that has been flipped completely upside down. At first glance, everything might seem, somewhat normal. But here's the trick. In this specific photograph, the actual eyes and lips of the person have been secretly inverted so they're right side up relative to you, even though the rest of the face is upside down. When you eventually flip the whole photo right side up, it looks absolutely horrifying. But why doesn't your brain register that monstrous mistake immediately when the photo is upside down? Now, what's really interesting about this is the disconnect between our eyes and our brain's processing center. Your eyes see the inverted features, but your brain processes it as a relatively normal face. Why? Well, because evolution simply hasn't trained our brains to immediately recognize eyes and lips in an upside-down position. Your brain just isn't used to seeing it, so it essentially takes a shortcut, assuming everything is fine until you look much, much closer. Let's actually prove this evolutionary blind spot right now with a physical experiment you can do wherever you are. First, try to turn your tongue upside down inside your mouth. Well, if you're one of the people who can biologically do that, of course. Now, use a finger or your teeth to touch the left side of your flipped tongue. You will actually feel the physical sensation on the opposite side. It is an incredibly weird feeling. Just like the upside-down face, evolution never taught the brain how to properly read sensory input from the tongue when it's twisted into that unnatural position. Your brain's map gets totally scrambled. Let's try another test of perception, this time focusing on reading. Imagine looking at a puzzle text, a short sentence where the word spot appears twice, back to back. How fast can you catch it? I'll give you a few seconds right now to think about it. Okay, time's up. If you struggled with that, or hey, if you've ever missed a glaring typo in your own writing, don't worry, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you and your vision isn't failing. What's happening is that your brain just completes the picture. It anticipates what should be there based on what it's used to seeing in a grammatically correct sentence. It literally filters out the repeated word before it even registers in your conscious mind. You become completely blind to the repetition because your brain is trying to save you processing time.
Theme 2, Spotting the Hidden Details. Let's move from logic shortcuts to pure visual acuity. Let's test that visual logic with another riddle. Think about a standard t-shirt that's been damaged. In fact, you can see the background straight through the middle of the fabric. Thinking beyond the absolute most obvious answers, how many holes does this t-shirt have in total? I'll give you a 5 to 20 second window to lock in your final answer. The correct answer is 8. Did you get it? If you just guessed 2 or 4, you fell right into a classic cognitive trap. You didn't visualize the entire three-dimensional object. Let's move to and see how this builds, breaking down the exact logic of those 8 holes. First, you have the standard structural openings, right? 1 hole for the neckline, 2 for the sleeves, and 1 large opening at the bottom. So that's 4 right there. But remember the clue? You can see the background straight through the middle of the shirt. For that to happen, there must be 2 holes cut into the front fabric and 2 corresponding holes cut right through the back fabric. 4 plus 4 equals 8. It requires a young, flexible mind to step back and look at the whole picture. Okay, let's try another visual puzzle. I want you to mentally picture an intricate, complex line drawing of a tree. Hidden entirely within the negative space and the crossing branches is a baby, totally camouflaged. How do you trace the thin branches to spot it? Well, to spot the baby, you have to force your brain to stop seeing branches and start looking for familiar shapes in the chaos. If you isolate the specific details, it comes together. On the left side, the branches form the outline of a head. In the middle, the crossing lines form arms. And on the right side, the intricate twigs perfectly trace out little feet and toes. The entire hidden image is a baby resting in the fetal position. Your brain basically has to actively suppress the larger context of the tree to allow these tiny details to emerge. And as our source material jokingly points out about this specific hidden tree baby, it's a very good thing he doesn't have teeth because his bark is definitely better than his bite. Yeah, it's a terrible pun, I know, but a great palate cleanser before we move on to our final and maybe most challenging psychological hurdle. Theme 3, the conformity trap, how heavy social conditioning impacts our perception of reality. To understand this, I want you to place yourself in a famous research scenario. Imagine you're sitting in a room with 4 other people, looking at 2 lines drawn on a board. Line A is obviously and undeniably longer than the other line. You know it, it's an objective fact. But one by one, the 4 other people in the room confidently state out loud that the other shorter line is actually the longer one. And they are incredibly convincing actors, lying to you. Now it's your turn to answer. What would you say? This scenario tests a really powerful force. Conformity, which is basically agreeing with the majority to avoid standing out, even when the obvious reality proves the majority wrong. In the actual research this riddle is based on, the real subject would overwhelmingly give the wrong answer, simply because they didn't want to stand out from the group. Their brain prioritized social cohesion and safety over speaking an obvious visual truth. And this brilliantly illustrates just how common this behavior is. A staggering 75% of people admit that they will laugh at a joke in a group setting just to fit in, even if they completely miss the punchline or don't find it funny at all. Only 25% hold out. Our brains are hardwired to adapt to the majority. It's a massive shortcut that can sometimes totally override our own independent logic. Calculating your brain age. It's time for the grand finale to evaluate your results.
So the crucial point is how quickly you were able to bypass your brain's natural shortcuts today. If it took you more than 20 seconds to figure out the riddles, or if you just couldn't solve them, you have the cognitive traits of a mature brain. It means you find it harder to see beyond the obvious and might resist sudden changes in logic. If you consistently answered in less than 20 seconds, your brain is young. You can approach tasks from different angles. And if you crack these in under 5 seconds, wow, you have a very young brain, highly flexible, notices tiny details, and rapidly adaptable to new situations.
Now, if you fell into the mature category and are feeling a little self-conscious right now, don't panic. As our source material wisely and rather humorously points out to soften the blow, you're only young ones, but you can be immature forever. Having a mature brain just means you rely on well-worn, efficient mental paths, even if they occasionally get tripped up by a trick t-shirt question. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Your brain is an adaptive machine, constantly balancing between deep analysis and quick shortcuts. Based on today's tests, what is your brain age? Are you a rigid, mature thinker or an adaptable, young problem solver? Take these tools, test your friends, see how they conform or break the mold, and keep challenging your perspective every single day. Thanks for exploring the mind with me.